Oh 07 citizens, Black here from Castle Black Gaming, and sorry it's been a minute since I put out any sort of Pyro guide. I have been absolutely captivated by mining and Pyro though, so I figured it was time to share some tips, which includes my latest Solo Mole setup, which might not be for everyone, but I figured I would share just the same, and my reasoning for my setup. Now, as with all my videos, I will break this up using timestamps below with the mole build out first and then the tips after, so skip to what you need. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to it. So my loadout is mainly to play as a solo player, but it also has some multiplayer functionality, mainly in that I use two helixes, but with different modules. I use a Hofstede for my main use laser. So for slot number 1, which is the middle laser, that's where my Hofstede laser goes, and I have two FLTR XLs on it. Now you might be wondering why that laser in that place and why those FLTRs. Well, as someone on my Discord pointed out, it's the laser that I use the most. I use it for all the secondary breaks and some primary breaks if the rock is below around 13k mass or so. It's just easier to control for those secondary breaks, and the FLTRs reduce the inert materials by 48% together, so I get more of the good stuff. Now, since it's my most used laser, it just makes sense to have it right behind the pilot seat and to not have to travel down the ladder as much. I just go down the ladder once for that main break, then come back up to the center where I spend most of my time, and is handy for having to reposition, etc. Now for slot number 2, which is the left turret, I put a helix on that side, and the modules I use are two Riger C3s and then a Focus 3 for the bigger charge window. Now the Focus 3 comes in handy in Pyro for the smaller charge windows that you get from Risite and Stellaron. Now I've actually thought about going to Focus 3s and just one Seeker 3 for an even bigger charge window. Slot number 3 is the heavy hitter and the turret on the right side, so it has my other helix and two Riger C3s and a Stampede. Now this will give me the most bang for my laser buck and allows me to bust most rocks just under 30k mass solo. Now you might be wondering why I use two helixes, and that's where the other multiplayer aspect comes in. Now whether I have someone riding with me, or I have a friend or my wife and their prospector, they can join me and we can open up some pretty big rocks by having two helixes. Having two helixes also gives me as a solo player options, whether that be a hard-hitting smash and grab or just a little bit more control but less mass that I can use to break. It's a nice overall balance for my play style in Pyro. Alright, and now for some general Pyro mining tips. Now, if you're thinking about making Pyro your starter home, don't set it as checkmate, especially if you have an extra large hangar. Checkmate is where you will do the bulk of your refining, and having them assign you that extra large hangar when you're coming in hot with a mole of Quantanium, it just adds to the time that it's going to take you to land. Checkmate is currently my home, and I cannot wait to switch it up next update. I will probably go for Obituary. Now, while out in the mole and switching seats, your ship will sometimes drift. Now, one thing I've been doing which seems to help is to position myself where I need to be. Then before getting out of my seat, I switch to a third person mode and see if the ship is slightly moving to either side. If so, I just gently tap it in the opposite direction to try to get it to stop. Once the ship appears to be still, I then get out of my seat and go mine. Now, I'm not sure what's actually causing this, but if it's the getting in and out of your seat that's doing it, this might not help, but I swear I've had it happen less since I've been doing this. Alright, so this is just a basic tip, not necessarily for Pyro, but when dealing with smaller rocks that might not fill you up with a single large, perfectly sized rock, I try to position my ship between two rocks that I need to bust, or I go and do all of my busting before any of the extracting, and then position the ship between the nodes to be extracted, since the distance can be more forgiving if you're not right next to them all, and using that position I can move less, which as a solo miner, getting up and down to move your ship can be a huge time sink. Alright, so the servers and hangars have definitely improved with 4.0.2, but it's not perfect, and we've still seen some issues where when you land and go over to your ASOP terminal to put your ship up, it's not recognizing your ship, and it would seem that you've lost what you may have brought back. So a good simple way to avoid this, and also save yourself precious time, is that once you land in the hangar, immediately just go into your Mobi-Glass and see if you can refuel. If your ship will not let you recognize the refuel options, then just take off and leave the hangar. Let it close, and then call it out again and land. The second time, it has always recognized the hangar, and then I'm good and nothing was lost. If you're fast enough and in a larger, bigger hangar, you can land, check the fuel, and get back out before the doors actually close. Otherwise, you can just call to leave. So for many that I speak to in my Discord, they have not even tried mining in Pyro because they fear the piracy. I will tell you what I tell them. I've done 30 to 40 refinery jobs worth of mole jobs all in Pyro and have not yet been pirated. Now I do have a new player in a Discord who was pirated once, but it was because he did not follow this next tip, and since then he has not been pirated. I'm not going to tell you it cannot happen because it certainly can, and especially as you're coming into the stations, there's a good chance you could be pirated just depending on where you go. I'm just telling you that your chances can be greatly lowered, especially as you are actually mining. So here's all that I do. I do mostly planet-side mining because solo players can find smaller rocks planet-side versus the asteroids unless you're mining ice, in which case you have no choice. But planet-side, all I do is I fly to the planet or moon that I want to mine at. For finding Risite and Stellaron, that usually means heading to one of the moons around Pyro 5. Then I choose which side of the planet that I want to be on, usually the side with the sun, and then I just fly straight down, making sure I'm going in the middle of nowhere versus anywhere near a specific jump point. Now some of these moons only have 2 to 3 jump points, so if you choose those to go to and then try to fly just away from those after you've quantum in, well, you're running the risk of being detected as soon as you jump in because of how high the signatures of your industrial sized ship puts out. From orbit, you can easily see where the outposts are by their triangles, so just avoid those. Just point away from those and then head straight down. Now it takes roughly 3 full afterburner thrusts to reach the surface, which is around 5 minutes or less. This tip is going to save you from piracy though, especially from those little fighters who are already struggling with fuel. Alright, so full disclosure here, this tip is not confirmed except through my Discord's own use, and so far it has done us right, and with 4.1 they might have even fixed it, but until we know for sure, it's how I've been moving my cargo from the refinery to my ship and hangars. Of course, the thing that would make this a lot easier would be if CIG allowed refined materials to be stored straight to the station instead of just your ship, but alas, there's no word on this just yet. Anyway, here are the steps that I take to keep my cargo from being locked onto the ship's grid. Oh, and if your cargo is already locked, there is no workaround for that, at least none that we found. If you've already put your ship up and called it back and you did that and it didn't free it, you've probably just lost it and will just need to reclaim the ship. So anyways, the first step of this, when you know your refinery job is ready to move to your cargo on your ship, is to go into your hangar and call up the cargo ship which you want it to go on. Wait until the ship is fully up, then send it back down. Now the important part here is to wait until it is fully back down and not get on the elevator to leave while it's still going down, because going in that elevator can make it stow differently, and we believe this is what may be causing the cargo to be in that weird state. After you are sure the ship came up and went back down fully, go claim your cargo from the refinery. Then go down to your hangar and call your ship up. Your cargo should be fine, and you can then take it and remove it and put it in your freight elevator. Now I only do one refinery job at a time because I got burned and lost 2 at once, but that choice is yours. It does add a lot of time having to bring up your ship and put it back down for each individual refinery job though, so it's up to you. Of course, once the cargo is off, just store the ship again, making sure it goes all the way down, especially if you plan on going back up to the refinery to send another load down to your ship. But let's say you just stored your ship and you know it went down fully, then you log off from the game and come back on later to send more cargo down to your ship. Don't assume that because you watched it go down before you logged out that it's still fine. Go back to your hangar and call it up again and send it back down once you've logged in. Basically, unless you're doing that cargo transfer right then and there, do not assume it's stowed correctly and stayed stowed correctly during your time offline. Just assume it needs to go through that up and down process each time you need to use it. Hell, if I leave the station and then come back, I will still do the up and down thing because you do switch servers during your travels. Taking this extra step has kept me from losing any more cargo outside of that initial time it happened to me, so losing 2 loads out of 30 plus has been worth that extra time to me. Alright, so anyway, that's it for this quick tips guide. I hope you found something useful here, and if so, please hit that subscribe button and do all the things that help a small channel like mine grow. And also let me know down in the comments some of your workarounds or tips for mining in Pyro. Also, come on and join my Discord where we are constantly talking about all things mining, salvaging, and pretty much everything the game has to offer, and also things that haven't come out yet. We're very active in the Discord and only getting more active by the day as we get new users. Also, we have a casual, laid-back org you can join if you're interested, so come on over. Links are down below. Now, I believe in keeping it positive, so enjoy your time out there, and I'll see you out in the verse. Take care.